Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Kingdom Says podcast. I am your host, as always, Garrett Williams, and I am joined by a full crew today. Of course, I've got my usual co-hosts, Kyle Henning. Kyle, how are you doing today, sir?
Doing well. We told you we'd be back multiple times over the next couple weeks, and we had a bunch of guests lined up, and we've got one for you today. If you're watching on YouTube, you've seen who is here with us already. If you are listening to this on audio, Garrett will introduce you here in a minute.
Yeah, soon to be announced.
But it's been a good week getting to look at receipt days, because there's been 3 days of receipt days on that good old Twitter app for Chiefs Kingdom with some of the Bengals group. So, and I know Jason has some receipts, because I heard I got to catch, if you guys haven't yet, check out the Chiefs Concerns episode with him and Marcus from today. And congratulations on the news, by the way. So I won't spoil that. They can go get all those pieces of information over there at your podcast. But with that, Jay, how are you, sir? I guess I stole Garrett's intro with the teaser.
Dang, stole intro and also almost skipped our guy Arrowhead Tom, Kyle.
I'm here, guys. I feel like the suspense is too much. If I were an audio listener, I'd be going crazy.
I know, yeah. We just need to get it all out here.
I'm here.
Tom is here.
I'm doing good. We'll go ahead and get to the important
and of course, we got our guy here, Jason Dunn, NFL tight end for both the Eagles and the Chiefs, who has now flourished in his new role as a podcast host with Chiefs Concerns and as a coach in the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl recently. So, Jason, how's it going, man?
What's up, fellas? Man, I'm doing well. So I'm just coming back from West Coasting, starting to get a little bit more of myself, my body back from just being out there for 8 days. It was 8 days, and which is a long time. And I'm glad I made the trip. Because it was kind of on the cusp of should I go out here, should I not? And it was such a fruitful occasion, a journey going out there, talking to some of the guys. I text, the tight ends I had that I was coaching, and just told them, man, look, y'all guys are a great group of young men that definitely have an opportunity to make it into the NFL. And so we've had some really, really talented guys that I coached out there. But not only just the guys that I coach, the guys that I coach with is another thing too, man. I mean, man, when I'm talking about, the greats, Hall of Famers, Pro Bowlers, you name it. I mean, we had just a crew that one of the guys I mentioned, Andre Rison, who was the wide receiver coach, said, man, if we took this group of coaches up to the NFL, he said, man, we could win some championships. We win some games. And I just man, Dre, believe me, I'm right there with you. So yeah, man, we put together, man, a great crew. Eddie George was our head coach. He was going against the American team that had Jeff Fisher, and so some of his guys.
That's a stacked lineup that was out there.
So if you guys aren't familiar with the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl, there's a literal who's who of names and also some Chiefs names you'll recognize on this list. So with that said, Jason, what was that like getting to coach not only with a bunch of guys from playing in the league with them during your days, but with former Chiefs and teammates and guys you see from around the organization? Because I know the Chiefs former player group is a pretty big group of players that likes to stay active with the Chiefs. So I know you see a lot of the guys sometimes, or at least talk to them with events and stuff. So how was that getting to see some of those guys and work with some of those guys, coaching some of the guys that might be coming up in this league in the next few years?
Well, I told you, man, it was an honor. It was a privilege, really. I mean, just going out there and just being able to, input some knowledge and wisdom to these guys and let them know what the exact process is like. I remember being in that seat, kind of coming out of college and that whole process of dealing with scouts and agents and how do you find your way and what's coming next and what do they expect out of me. And so though that in itself, man, is so nerve-wracking. It's so heavy on you for those guys to have to deal with. And when you have guys that have been there, have played a number of years in the league, I put in 11, and Andre Rison, I think he had 13 or 14. Jackie Slater, I think, has 17, something like that. I mean, we're talking about Seneca Wallace. Let me just go through the list of guys that we have, okay?
Yeah.
I'm looking at head coach Eddie George. Offense coordinator was Mark Frederick, who's at Prairie View. Defense coordinator was Joe Bowden. Quarterbacks coach Seneca Wallace. Running backs coach Robert Edwards. Wide receivers coach Andre Rosin. Wide receivers coach assistant was Chad Lucas. Me as the tight ends coach. Offensive line Jackie Slater. Cameron Clark. Defensive line coach was Cliff Matthews and Kendall Simmons, who played a lot of years up there as a guard with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Keith Bullock, right? Keith Bullock. I told Keith, I said, man, every time we went against you, man, you look like you had the biggest gloves I've ever seen a guy wear, you know? And so, you know, we kind of laughed about that. Benny Sapp. Oh, Benny. Remember Benny Sapp? You know,
Yes.
Yes, sir. And he's got a son coming out in the draft this year. So watch out to him, too.
Yes.
Yeah, who's a stud up there. Yeah, Northern Iowa, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so let me see. Richard McNutt was the defensive back coach. Special team coach Keith Burns, and also Nick Novak. Okay, so we're talking about these some real guys. Brandon Jacobs, Brandon Jacobs, another guy.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm gonna tell you something. I had no idea how big Brandon Jacobs is. I had no idea. I'm walking up to him. I said, man, this kid, dude, he walks in 6'3", 6'4", 240 pounds. Easy. I mean,
big dude.
I mean, he was a cheat
remember
code back in
watching
those
him
old
on TV,
Madden games.
And it's like you can't tell on TV still how big most of you guys are, but even then it was cartoonish how big he was compared to some of the people he would stand next to on TV. So in real life how much bigger he is than some other human beings. It's like that man is a whole different animal.
I mean, even back in the day in Madden,
and deal with.
If you used him in Madden, like he was, like 6'4", like 248 that he was listed as in Madden. Like he was just absolutely bulldoze people. But Jason, you mentioned the fact that, you were talking about like that kind of lineup of coaches, how all the All-Stars could really go to the league and maybe do some damage. If you look at like the Detroit Lions, for example, who, have a full coaching staff of like all former players, like how feasible do you think kind of that is in the NFL? Obviously, we've seen some success with it with the Lions. Do you think that's kind of a way the coaching ranks could maybe evolve towards the future in the NFL?
I do. I mean, to be honest with you, I think that's, that should be the natural progression. I mean, guys that play the game before, when you're trying to relate to the players, you want to have somebody who's been in the trenches, who's done it before. Like I said, who's done the process, got the knowledge, know where guys think mentally, where they are, physically, what they have to deal with. And I just think that when you have guys that, can give that type of, knowledge and let guys know what to expect, things go smoothly, right? There's no BS. There's no dealing with things that, you got to worry about if the guy's going to stab you in the back, because you respect it as being the locker room. And so, like all the coaches, and I told the guys, man, I text all these guys, I was like, look, man, I said, I appreciate this week so much because it seemed just like the locker room. It really did. I mean, we're cutting jokes, while we're getting ready for practice, but we got our work done. We had a lot of fun with each other, just going over the stories. I mean, Andre Rosin got the best stories in the world anyway, man. With Andre, and they just coming. Him and Jackie Slater, story after story after story. I mean, just keep you entertained. But also, too, what you're doing is you're cultivating young guys to be winners and champions, right? I mean, that's what you want to do. Part of like what you, as a coach, you want them to embed part of who you are into what as a football team. And I think Detroit has done a beautiful job of that. Another staff, I would say, just kind of looking at it, is also Jacksonville, with Peterson, Doug Peterson, Mike Howell, those two guys I played with. And you get Greasy down there to stepping out. I mean, these are guys that know the deal about what it means to be in the NFL, right? And so if a guy's like, hey, man, I'm a little sore here and there, you can call BS. You know, hey, man, look, I done tried that before. You need a day or break, just let me know you need a day. I'll give you a day if you need a day, right? And so I'm not thinking about that. I think about Willie Rowe. Willie Rowe was like one of those dudes like, hey, coach, I need one. You gotta give me a day today. Willie, we got you, right?
Yeah, you can give Willie all the days.
Is that the guys that show up with the rest day DNP, no issue today? Is that those guys on the injury report? Yeah.
Yeah, they come out, look, they got the tennis shoes on, they're spouted. They just like, look, man, just put your jersey on, make it look like you're doing something, right? You're not going to do anything today and just rest.
So while you're just talking about, the relationship between coach and players, you got to play under Dick Vermeil, who I think is one of the all-time underrated coaches in NFL history. And obviously, he's was very successful, but one of the things that they always talk about was his relationships with players. And I'm just kind of curious, as you're into the coaching world a little bit, do you find yourself kind of looking back and mirroring some of the things that he did, or were there lessons that he kind of like taught you as a coach, and you kind of want to treat your players in a similar way? Is there anything like that stands out in terms of, being coached by Coach Vermeil?
Oh, man, no question about it. And I've always said this. Once I got into coaching, I've said to myself, like, look, I want to take all the great attributes that all the good coaches had and make it my own thing, right? Mm-hmm. So understanding, Coach Vermeil, where he made his transition from being with Philadelphia to the Rams to the Chiefs, and what he learned all through that entire process over the years, how important family was, not taken away. And, a lot of staffs, you hear them all the time, but everybody's trying to burn both candles at both ends. And it's hard to do. You wear guys out like that. You wear coaches out like that. And it's a long season. If you're thinking about going into the playoffs, you want to have a nice, healthy life with your family and with your football team. There's a balance there, right? There's a balance. So sometimes when you hear it, sometimes like Nick Saban and those guys, everybody's looking to see who's going to be the last guy in the office. It's just crazy, that's how you destroy families, right? And Gruden had to find out the hard way, until he realized it's affecting his health, and it's like, hey, you got to go home and get some sleep. Mm-hmm. Before it was like, it was a badge of honor to sleep on your couch in the office, right? And get up, and I'm like, shit, man, look, there's only so much film you can watch, okay?
Right.
There's only so much X's and O's you can write, really, right? So there's nothing proud to wake up stinking every single day, and your office is smelling like booty juice, whatever it is that you've been laying in all the time. I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm supposed to say things.
No, you're totally wrong.
Okay.
We've said way worse than that on
okay.
the show.
All right, cool. All right, but things like that, just like how it is laying in the old self, the old filth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like take a shower.
Yeah, too much time without a shower after working that many hours. No matter what you're doing, if you're sitting in an office chair, that office chair gets sweaty and sticky. Everybody's been sitting in that office chair that you get up out of, you're like, oh my, okay, that's gross. I need it.
Right.
So, with that said, and Tom's question about Vermeil, that kind of play style and those coaches, with Andy, because I know you had a year with him in Philly. Now I know it was the year you had your knee injury, but that was his first year coaching. Yes. And how he is with players. Now, he's a guy that's notorious for he's there a lot. He's there very early. He's one of the last ones out of the building, especially this time of the year. So with that said, and the amount of time that the coaches and stuff put in, the two things I kind of wanted to ask was, and I was going to go with this first, but I'll go back to it. I'm going to go with this for Tom because it ties in with Dick Vermeil. It's kind of the similarities between the two of them, and kind of because I think they're both kind of deemed players coaches, even before that term was really a thing, before, it was popular to call Sean McVay the players coach, or this other guy that played, because that's kind of how Andy's been forever, from basically every indication I've ever gotten from basically every player. That when they talk about him in interviews and all that stuff. So just the similarities between that and Vermeil, and how, because I also know I think they worked together too at some point, or had crossing staffs and whatnot. So just kind of the similarities you see between them, but then kind of the different styles between them as well. Because we all got to be very familiar with Dick and his emotional things, where he was just very passionate and his emotions were constantly on his sleeve, and the crying, because it wasn't crying, he wasn't having a good day. He that was kind of his thing, it seemed to be. So just kind of those kind of things.
Well, I would say this. So Vermeil was he was very personable with guys, right? He asked about your family, how you're doing, how's your mom doing, and your brothers, and what's going on in your life outside of football. And I think a lot of that just came with age, a lot of, just spending time and just realizing the importance of, creating these relationships to get the best out of the guys. Andy does the same thing in a different way, where he's just like, hey guys, he's one of I eat burgers with you, I'm gonna take care of you. Those type of, Andy has like the dichotomy of like, hey, big brother, I'm gonna take care of you, but you got to make sure you take care of your stuff, right? That's what it is. As long as you're doing what you're supposed to do, cool. I got you. I'm gonna take care of you. We can have this great relationship, and as long as it's doing that, we're good. He's a great communicator with that, as well as Vermeil. Vermeil was like I said, he's one of those guys is like your grandfather, your father, right? Hand on your shoulder. You having a bad day, like son, talk to me, right? That's what it is. That's Vermeil. That's one of them guys, Andy's kind of like sit down beside your big brother, like just nudge you, like, come on now, get this thing together, right? But that tells you the reason why Vermeil was the one that helped Andy get to Kansas City. Mm-hmm. He's the one that told him, like that's the reason, because he knew Kansas City needed a coach like that. Mm-hmm. He said, man, you don't want to pass this opportunity up. And so Andy being in Philly, and of course Vermeil living in Philly, they had a lot of runnings together, talking and whatnot. So that was Dick Vermeil's first choice to them say, you need to get Andy Reid out here to Kansas City. But both of them, man, I just
appreciate that, Dick. We appreciate that.
Yeah,
very much.
Huge shout out. Starting the golden era of Chiefs football here. I mean, crazy to think about in his time, and especially with the last 5 years, obviously hosting 5 consecutive AFC Championship games at home. Which, I mean, he broke his own record of doing that 4 times in Philly, and so it's like
this guy is the only coach to ever do it in both conferences with 2 different teams.
Yeah, it's it's just outstanding to see. Outstanding to see the development that Andy Reid has just progressed throughout the years, and now obviously has a superstar quarterback and a superstar tight end that in Travis Kelce that has been absolutely eating it up, especially in the playoffs. Kyle had some crazy numbers of Kelce's stats in the playoffs.
So Jason, I went and pulled up some numbers for Travis, because Travis has leads the single season yardage record, which was 16 games in a regular season with 1,416 yards. But I got to give a little credit to my dad, because he's the one that brought this to my attention last night. Travis has now played 17 playoff games.
Okay.
And in those 17 playoff games, he has 1,467 yards. So in an equivalent number of regular season games, he has more yards in the time of year that's supposed to be more difficult, where they're supposed to take away the best option, than anybody. And by the way, anybody is him that has the most yards in 16 or 17 games in a regular season, because Mark Andrews actually has the most yardage in a 17-game season in the regular season, with his 1,361-yard year and 107 catches. That's the other part, is Travis actually has more receptions in the postseason than he does in the regular season. He only has 105. He only had 105 yards or 105 catches in his yardage setting year. He had 127 in 17 in the playoffs. So I think I from a tight end perspective, and somebody who played the position and has seen it evolve, and what that looks like, what he's doing, he's the GOAT at this point right? And that's nothing, because we've seen some absolute insane tight ends come through this organization and other organizations. Gronk, Antonio Gates, going back even farther, you've got all the guys throughout history that paved the way for you guys. I mean, Shannon Sharp he haunted Chiefs fans for years with his play in Denver. We've seen them all, but Travis is doing things at this point that's just totally insane and not normal. And this time on a bad back. And then, of course, I want you to talk a little bit about what what took place with him and his post game a little bit, and because as a player, like, what does that do for you when you guys see that stuff from whether it's inside the locker room, outside the locker room, from an opposing city, and then what does that do? Like his response to it, how he handles it. What does that do for other guys in the locker room when he does that? Because I know what it does for the fan base and for the city. Because we love it. Everybody eats that up. That's fuel for the fan base. But as for players in the locker room, I assume it's at least in some ways have different effects and whatnot. So just trying to get an idea of how that transpires with Travis.
Okay. I'll start with, talking about the pinnacle of what he's just done in the playoffs himself, right? It's just, that's unheard of. Just to be able to, it just shows you he's a baller, right? He goes out to get it done. The one guy you should think about stopping on the Chiefs, you just don't. You just can't stop him. There's nothing you can do. So the numbers bear it out, no doubt about it. And so he's just phenomenal in that, just in the playoffs in itself, of what he's been able to do, as opposed to just the regular season, right? So that in itself is just, it speaks for itself. How he goes about it and the way he carries himself, the way he just balls out of control, it gives your team confidence. It's infectious, right? It's like when you got a guy like that on your side, there's nothing you could be afraid of. There's nothing, the way he's just going out there, he's just destroying it. He's like, oh, cool. I need to get 10, 15 yards? Bet, I get it, right? If I need to go out here and get 100-some yards in the game, fine, put it on my shoulders. And so he just takes everything in stride and it makes it look easy. And he's having fun while he's doing it. So it's like showing guys, and this is my observation, showing a young guy like Pacheco that you can go out there and ball out of control and let it all hang loose, right? Mm-hmm. I believe that Pacheco was a little cautious in running the football this past game, because I was just looking at some of the holes he could have bounced it out that I seen where he had gotten better at the end of the year that he could have hit. But I think he was in his mind like, I don't want to make a mistake, right? He don't want it to be on him, right? That's just his mentality. That's how it is, because you realize the gravity of the situation that you're dealing with, right? First off, this is a team that you have gotten beat by 3 times, okay? You call them the Burrowhead Stadium, right? Everything's on your back, right? Pacheco's got to be the running game. He's got to be the guy. And so I know he's felt a little pressure. And so he was being a little cautious on it. But he can see a guy like Travis, like, hey, man, shoot, have fun with this. Shoot, make plays. Have fun making plays. You don't make a play, fine, whatever. Line back up, do it again, okay? Then make the next play. And so that's showing guys the way that you can actually get into the game, man, and control it. That's what he's doing. Him and Pat is out there just having fun. They're controlling the game. That duo is just unstoppable. I don't care what you do, how many times you think that you got it covered up, you just don't. They just find a way. And so I've seen him run I watched the route, okay? He ran the corner route. Where he ran. The safety had it covered really good. What Travis did was, okay, you got me covered on the corner. Well, let me just whip back out and find the window. And Pat was just waiting for him. Pat knows he's running the corner route. He knows, okay, it's covered. But I know Travis is going to find a way to get this hole open. There it is, touchdown, right? It's poetry in motion, man. It's just a symphony of how they just do this and how they make it work. And so that's knowing guys, knowing each other and what they want. So I played with some great guys, man. I played with some Gonzalez, which to me is still, I'm still, goat-wise, TD, okay? I'm just, because 17 years and all that, right?
Fair.
But not taking anything away from Trav. It's not, right? Trav he's still ascending, right? He's still going.
Yeah, he's got some time left.
He's got a lot of time left, right? I'm saying he's probably got another 4 years. He's still going to play easy, I'm thinking. Mm-hmm. As long as his body's well, he's doing fine, definitely. Of course, it's a different time, right? I look at it like, okay,
right.
Same thing, LeBron. The offenses are different. We're throwing the football even more. There's some things that look different, right? So, but I say this. Kansas City has had the best tight ends to ever play the game, period.
Yeah, that's a pretty easy exclamation, I think, to make.
That feels easy to argue.
That feels pretty safe.
Easy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
1 or 2, however you want to do it, like, however you want to make it. We've had the 2 best tight ends ever to ever play the game.
Exactly. But you're right, though, in the fact that the position has evolved a lot from when, Tony to Trav now. And, Travis himself has credited a lot to, the fact that Andy Reid has kind of developed this role for him as just this hybrid tight end, wide receiver, like just dominant pass catching guy. And you mentioned how obviously that veteran presence that he has and just, how he knows the offense so well and can work in every way and how he can pass that on to the rookies. You mentioned Pacheco, also guys like Sky Moore who have, been having a lot of, have made some big steps this year. And, it might be a similar thing. We saw Sky in this last game have a couple great punt returns, and it's having Travis Kelce there is a huge factor in that.
Well, let me give you one more. The tight end room in itself, I promise you, and I guarantee this, when them jokers walk out that door, they all got swag. You know what I'm saying? It's emanating off Travis to everybody else. You know what I'm saying? Noah Gray, Jody Ford. I mean, everybody's hitting up with it, right? You can't miss. Everybody's coming out of there. It's just like smokers rolling out of the tight end room, and these jokers. That's how we were in Kansas. When I played, me, Tony, Billy, and whoever else, we knew we was gonna get our job done. We already knew it. So whoever was coming in, Arrowhead was gonna get lumped up, right? I was gonna put these meat hooks on somebody. And I knew TG was gonna catch the ball wherever the ball was thrown to him. So that having that and knowing, like you said, Sky Moore seeing those things, man. It's infectious. It is. It's infectious. And then when he goes into the mayor, right? He gets out there and just the crowd is low. I love it. I said that, man. What's because I said I was gonna play this music, this DJ Sway, the remix guy. I said I was gonna play his stuff, man. Yeah. But the one he did with the mayor, like what's the deal with this dude, man? I just don't understand. I get it.
Like I understand trash talk, but to me that was weird. It went to a weird place instead of just being trash talk. With the paternity test thing and all that, like that became odd to me.
Yeah, doing it as a city decree and like he was writing legislation. It was weird, but I think one of the things that, and this I think about just Travis as just watching him as a player, like when he was a younger guy, he let his emotions get a little ahead of him. And I remember there's still some gifs and clips out there of him throwing, hey look, there's Tank. But like throwing the flag and doing some certain motions, all that stuff. But like, I think one of the things that's important for these young guys to see is, especially from somebody who's as passionate as Travis is you can handle your business and then you can let loose a little bit. And so, I think that's important. And also just something that probably he had to learn kind of himself, you can't go throw pretend flags at the referees or whatever when you're in the heat of a moment, but to let your play do your talking for you. And I think that's probably a message that, he can pass on to those younger guys and they're going to hear that and respect that. Cause I'm guessing some of them probably watched him do that, but he still has that same intensity, that same passion, but it's a lot of that, you take care of your business first and then you talk instead of, I think where Cincinnati was doing a lot of talking and didn't take care of business as much as they would have liked.
And I think Andy's seen that, right? He's seen that in Travis. Like, hey man, like look, just taper it down a little bit. I get it. Like I get it, right? You take the flag, throw it on people, but when you have a chance, and Travis, that's his area, right? Cincinnati, all that area. I mean, on him too. He's like, man, I got to rule this. It's got to be that deal. It's got to be that. So it's. Know your role and shut your mouth. Know your role. I told you, man, this is all about my playlist. Yeah. Yo.
Yeah, good, JD.
I was watching your episode this afternoon on my lunch break, and I was not prepared for that when that dropped, and I was dying laughing. That's excellent.
Yeah, when I'm telling you, it's hard, and it just goes straight at him. Jabroni. I mean, for a guy to call out the mayor of a city, okay, and putting dead in his place, right? Oh.
And Travis has ties to Cincy because he spent 5 years there, and he talked about that on his podcast. And that's kind of the last thing I want to ask you about with Travis from me. I'm sure the other guys have some stuff, but he and his brother have now launched New Heights, which has gone automatically to New Heights, which anybody that's seen those two talk anywhere at all knew if you gave them both a microphone and a couple hours during the week, we were going to get all kinds of greatness out of it. And it's been absolutely incredible. But we see more players stepping into this space. Pat McAfee, Travis, you, all the guys. I have all these players in all these different places. Joe Valerio, guys from different generations even that are doing this. And what is that? Because you talked about, like, we mentioned Garrett would mention the steps for players into the coaching ranks, and we talked earlier about how much time a lot of these coaches put in for that. And I know a lot of players, or at least some guys, when they get done playing, they don't want to spend 16 more hours a day at a facility for the next 25 years, whether that's working through college and recruiting or up in the NFL. So this outlet in this space has opened, it seems like, a lot more opportunities. And what's it like being one of the guys that started doing this kind of early and now seeing where it's going for people as they're doing it?
Well, athletes have a voice, right? And one thing we could speak about our craft. We could speak about the job that we've done, what the locker room seems like, what guys are feeling, what they're talking about. And so sometimes it's hard to emulate the locker room. But at least with the podcast, it gives you a chance to kind of get that energy off of you. You know what I'm saying? Like I've tapered it down because I try not to curse and all those different things on it because I know kids watch and stuff like that. But man, when I'm telling you, I want to get on a podcast and just go crazy and just go wild and just be insane. That's what we are. We were the kids that was ADHD kids. I'm a comic guy. Like I looked at comics. I always wanted to be a superhero. And so when you see guys like that had so much passion and, when you was on the field, that's what made us such good football players because we just had a switch that would just instantly go crazy, just like, just one of those deals. Right. And so when you get on the podcast, it's great to talk about these things, because people want to hear about it. And fans, I appreciate them so much because, people ask questions. I'm just like, man, absolutely, I'll talk about it. I could be completely wrong, but at least I can give you my experience, what it was about my time. You know what I mean? I can, right? Yeah. It's just like Bart Scott is just, he's on. Bart Scott says whatever, okay? And he's that guy.
Chiefs Kingdom is very aware Bart Scott says whatever. I think that may be the most receded video I have seen tweeted over the last 3 days from this fan base. Right? It's everywhere.
And the face, like he just looked. The face is just like looking like an idiot, right? It's like, okay, that's the face you should have, and somebody who doesn't know, and so who's completely wrong. Him and Sims, they get out there and they start spouting all these different things, man. The things they just talk about, and so. You have guys like that is like who wants to be the enemy or he's that guy. That's who Bart Scott is. Bart Scott's got to be the one that just nudge and picks the scab. That's who he is. That's who he was as a football player. That's who he's going to be as a sports analyst, right? That's true. And so, but also too, you got the colorful guys like Dion and Shannon. Shannon does a tremendous job. But that's just his personality. Like Travis, that's his personality. Jason, that's his personality.
How that man does that job. I have no idea how that man does that job every day.
Who's that? Oh, Shannon.
No clue. No clue. Club Shay Shay podcast and all that. I understand that all entirely. The day job, I don't know, man. I don't know how that would be tough. We would have to talk numbers, and they would have to be high, like really.
Yeah.
High.
Oh, believe me,
really high.
I promise you, there's been conversation, probably off camera, where he told Skip, like, listen, I tell you what, you say one more thing to me, I'm gonna put these.
You're gonna get one of these.
Absolutely, I promise you.
What day? I won't even mention a full clip of what it was. He said so what to him in reference to something about Shannon being a player, and I don't know. That day would have been the day I was no longer working on that show. I can tell you that.
Yeah,
that is wild. That is Yeah, shout out
He's a
Shannon
Hall of
Sharp.
Famer. Like he was like, so what?
Yeah, so what?
Yeah, I mean, he walked onto an NBA court and just talked all the shit, and
was
so what? That's Shannon
electric
Sharp.
also,
Like, you're not going to do anything
by the
about
way.
it. He is still
Right.
yoked. But no, the new generation of former athletes getting into the podcast realm is terrific, both for the athletes and also for the fans. Like you said, you appreciate the fans appreciate you, because
Yes, very much.
that's a perspective that we've never heard of before. Like, back in the day, you'd get like the old quarterbacks that would go on the radio show and talk and do that stuff, but you never get players in a serious environment where they can be loose, let it loose, and just talk, and go back to that locker room setting. And so all these podcasts coming out with these guys, like, you hear stories you would have never heard, and all these, like, you learn so much more from a player's side of the game, like all the intricacies of the building and coaching staffs and all these different relationships that you form. So I think it's a great step for sports media as a whole to kind of evolve to where we have more guys that have actually been there and done that, as opposed to guys who've been behind a computer screen their whole life and just haven't really experienced what it is to kind of be in that locker room environment. So big shout out to you.
Appreciate it, brother. I mean, you pull the lid off of things, right? You really do. The behind the scenes things, what goes on, like these real conversation. And that's what I was telling those guys when I was coaching out there. Like, listen, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you all the good and the bad and the ugly of the business. I am. I'm going to tell you my experience with everything I went through, what was said to me, negotiations, all of it. I'm going to let you all know. So you're not blindsided when it comes to you, and realize that it is a business. Like NFL is your commodity. What have you done for me lately? But one thing I wanted to do is, like, as fans, talk to you all is like, man, what is it like to, tailgate? I've never done
Right.
it. You know what I'm saying? To me, it's exciting. I always wanted to do it. I was like, I wanted to go and do the tailgating, go out to the bar, jump in with everybody, and just be celebrating. That's what I want to do, right? And that's the aspect.
Have you made it to Arrowhead yet and done that yet? Have you made it out? I know you were trying to.
Yeah, I forgot what game I went to, and when I got there, I thought I got there in time, but somebody was like, "Man, Dave, you gotta get out here like an hour, 2 hours early." And I'm like, I had no idea. Yeah. I'm blind to this, right?
Before the sun's up, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, and so
that's crazy. Yeah, for players, I don't even think we don't know.
I know that's a
stuff
perspective that you don't even consider. You don't get to ever watch the game from the stands, experience Arrowhead. Yeah, exactly. It's a whole different perspective.
You can hear it out there, right? You can hear it when you come into the stadium. Oh, yeah. And you see all the people. And I know they're cooking up something good. You ride in the stadium and you take care of your business. But you can hear all the stuff out there, the ambiance and the smoke and all those different things. And I've always wanted to say, man, I want to be over there and just enjoy a game with people, right? They were telling me sections to go to. I was trying to get people to give me, what places to be. I'm going to be in this section stuff. And I'm like, it's funny because you don't quite know where things are in the stadium. It's a lot to see.
Big place. Very big place.
Yeah, right. Like, I have no idea.
And the fan side of it is like, but for us, it's like, they spend every day at that building, so they know where everything is.
They know everything and everything that's going on.
And they know where the trainer's room is, and they know where the offices are, but they don't know what seat row F-126. Nobody knows where that is. They don't know where that is.
Yeah, no idea.
That's and that's the stuff that we love. That's different than, because it's also I think a bridge between fans and the players that I don't think used to exist, because people that cover and this is something with media changing and how that's done and how sports are covered and where people get their information and their content from now is changed a lot, but it's allowed people to really get to know players and players get to show themselves to others, like Garrett was mentioning. But I think the bridge gap to being able to communicate, whether it's, asking players on Twitter questions and getting involved with podcasts and asking that kind of stuff. One of my favorite segments of your guys' show is when people ask you questions and you answer. Today's episode, spoiler, excellent Ray Lewis story. Chiefs fans of that era remember that day, but Jason getting to tell that story and kind of go through it is must listen audio. So go check out Chief Concerns at all of their stuff. I wanted to ask you about the Super Bowls because there's like 86 Super Bowls this week. We have the Kelce Bowl. We have the Andy Reid Bowl because he's obviously done everything in both places except the one thing in Philly. So we're trying to get him 2 here to make up for the one he should have had there. Right. But all that stuff paired with your stuff. This is as Marcus said today. It's the Jason Dunn Bowl. You spent time in both places, also with Andy in Philly, and then we've got obviously the more talked about ones where it's the first two African American quarterbacks are playing each other in the historical sense of it, which is super important to them.
Absolutely,
that kind of stuff. And so I just wanted to get your perspective. I know which one's probably the most important, which is the one I just mentioned. But which one's your favorite one of all the different ones that you've got that are out there now running around? Because, man, there's so many of them. It's just fun to see. And I think this Super Bowl, from that kind of perspective, is different than a lot of the matchups you're going to get in Super Bowls. Because a lot of times, fan bases, I'm not saying that we're not going to end up with some back and forth with Philly, because Philly is a tough city with a really passionate, really loud fan base. We know. We've seen it in the playoffs. And so, and that's Chiefs Kingdom as well. So there's going to be a little back and forth, but there's a respect level, I think, between the franchises and the fan bases to an extent. So just the bowls and how that all, which one's more important for you?
Oh, which one's more important to me? Man, to be honest with you, man, I'm going to say all of them equally are enjoyable in its own sense, right? The one where you have the 2 African-American quarterbacks was like a little nugget I didn't know. I was like, oh, really? I was actually
crazy.
So I was like, wait a minute, it can't be true. And it was like, it is, right? It was just like, wow, okay. And so the significance of it, of just having 2 guys, representatives of going out there and playing as African-American males because of the history of the game and where it, kind of transitioned into, man, is wonderful. It's great. And it's easy, it's great to celebrate it, right? And respect it for what it is, and that should be recognized. And 2 young guys that are just doing a tremendous job. And I said this today. I said, I don't think Jalen or Patrick get the due that's due to them. That's how good they are. I don't. Because sometimes you take it back, them being kind of, they're not the traditional quarterback, right? They don't have, Patrick Mahomes is the backyard football player. And what are you talking about? He's throwing for 5,000, a gazillion yards. And it seems like you're trying to, like, a backhanded compliment of saying he's a backyard football player, right? Saying that he's creative and he's talented and all those different things. Like, shit, that needs to be recognized as, and celebrated because it is great, right? He is a great player. And he's a great leader. I heard Jason Kelce was talking about it. When I heard Jason Kelce talk about what type of leader he was in the locker room, I said, man, I know what there was a reason I liked Jalen. I liked him in college. I did. And when he's coming out and, what he's done up there in Philadelphia has been incredible. But that significance of it it should be rewarded, it should be thought about, it should be empathized. Now, same thing with Andy. Andy's going through Philly and coming out to Kansas City and his transition. To me, when Andy first came out to Kansas City, I'm like, man, he followed the same road I did. That's what I said. He followed the same road. And it was kind of like that, And so I'm happy for Andy getting there playing his old team, and sort of what I feel this can be a kind of revenge game in a sense, somewhat, right?
I think.
Philly kind of
got a little bit. You got a little bit there,
Yeah, I got kicked to the curb with Philly, and I'm like, we lost when they came to Arrowhead. It was the T.O. game when T.O. didn't have nothing the first half. The second half, he went crazy. Probably should have won the game, but we didn't. So I didn't have that revenge factor. But Andy can get that. He can get that. He can be like, okay, fine. I took y'all to 4 NFC championship games, okay? Y'all been talking smack. Here I am. I'm back. Won a Super Bowl with another team, ready to win another one. Off goes your head with this one, right? I'm going to take it over here against Philly, right? And then the Kelce Bowl with the brothers and whatnot, man. I think it's just love all the way. It's just competition between brothers, man. That's how it is, right? You just want to beat your brother anyway. You love each other, but you just want to beat him because it's just bragging rights. It's I got one on top of you. I want that ring. Look at this ring. What this ring says, huh? So I think that's what it is. That's the significance of it. But, man, all these different bowls, man, I think, like I said, all of them are enjoyable in its own right. And then, of course, me, right? I said at the very beginning of the season, wouldn't it be great to have both my former teams go and play in the Super Bowl? Seriously. And here we are. And I was so ecstatic, brother. I'm telling you, when I'm telling you, tickle pink, people have been calling me, texting me, and all. I mean, it's been crazy ever since all of that happened. And so it's been a great week. It's going to be a great week this week, next week, and the Super Bowl. And so everybody's asking me. There's always a question, JD. Who are you thinking? Right, that's the question.
You got JD
in the Super Bowl, right? And so here's my answer. My answer is I don't have an answer yet. No, I'm just playing. I just
find out on Chiefs Concerns. Right?
No, I was like, oh man, don't stay tuned for part 2.
Oh yeah, no. Well, listen, this is what I said. I've said this. Very formidable teams, both of them. Okay, I think we need to get some of our pieces back. We need to get 2 of the 3 receivers back. Hardman probably is not going to play. Andy said he's probably not going to play in the Super Bowl. But we get Kadarius back and Juju back, puts us in a better spot. Okay? Juan and Gay and Snead, those guys need to be back, right? That's what I'm talking about. Staples of our defense, those guys are it. And so getting those guys back is going to put them in a better position to beat the Eagles because they got a formidable defense and they got a great offense, right? We know this. They got a great offensive line. They got 2 very good wide receivers. The third one in Quentin, I can't think of his last name right now. And Goddard is a tight end, right? Yeah. Their backs have been doing a good job. They're running the football really effectively. Their defensive line and their secondary, man, whoo! I'm telling you, man, that's a lineup. So, but we match up really well. We match up really well against them defensively and offensively on both sides of the ball. And so, coaches, I think we definitely got that. Okay, I like Sirianni and those guys, they ain't quite been there. Andy, Spags did a tremendous job this last game, calling the plays. He had a wonderful scheme out. He did. Okay, I think he learned. He learned over the time. He's like, okay, I trust my guys, but I'm gonna give you some help. It is what he did. He gave some help when he needed to. Okay, but we get those pieces back. I think the Chiefs win. Period. I just believe that. Because Philly haven't seen an offense like Kansas City. They haven't. They just not this entire year. They just
ain't no Brock Purdy.
Yeah, their path has been a lot different. It's been a lot different than
they've also never been on this stage before either. A lot of those guys have never seen these lights before.
Yeah.
So go ahead. It's going to be a great game either way, and I think, like we said, there's some mutual respect for the fan base. There's just so many connections between the two franchises, which is cool. Obviously, we all want the Chiefs to win. So last question before we get out of here. Have you decided where you're going to watch this game at? Where you're going to watch the big game at? What are your plans for it?
Man, I'm still up in the air with this. Everybody asks me if I'm going to the Super Bowl, and I'm just like, man, I wouldn't even know what to do. It had to be on a whole different level, but if not, it'll probably be here at my house. I usually have a big shindig here anyway. Mm-hmm. Super Bowl, like my basement. I had to show you, man. I'm down with. I got all type of everybody's jerseys up there, but I got Philly stuff. I got Kansas City stuff. That is the dungeon. That's the layer. That's the dungeon's layer.
Dungeon.
Yeah,
I like it.
And so that's where it's going to be more than likely. That's where it's going to be here at the castle over here, brother.
There you go. I don't know if I can watch it with anybody this year. I watched the first one with basically no one, and then when we played Tampa, I watched it in a group, and I think I'm going back to basically nobody again this year. So, yeah, I don't think I'll be participating. And of course, we all looked. I looked at the Super Bowl tickets just to see what the.
Hey, JD, you might be able to afford it. JD, we're probably not going to be able to do it.
If I was in JD's shoes, I don't know what I would do because I would. I
don't even know.
I don't know if
that
I
might
could sit in the stadium and watch both my teams play each other, but.
Yeah. Also, just a little bit financially irresponsible, maybe.
Unless somebody gave me a ticket unless somebody gave me a ticket, there would be no way I will put that type of money into going to the game.
Yeah,
right.
And I don't know that I don't know that you get to see the game as well, and that's no offense to the experience and the atmosphere, and I'm sure the atmosphere is cool and all. But if I'm going to go to the Super Bowl, I think I want to go when my team's not playing and experience the atmosphere. And then when my team's playing,
then you don't have to sit there stressed out of your mind watching it. Yeah,
man, I don't know that I could do that in person. I don't know. Shout out to all the people that do.
Yeah,
the AFC Championship game last year was way nervous enough for me. That was way nerve-wracking enough.
Yeah, brother, listen.
And the Bills game, I was lucky. But yeah, crazy.
I've been to several Super Bowls. I think the last two I didn't go in. I did exactly what you did. I like parties and stuff like that. You know, NFL does a great thing with players and put a big shindig on. To me, it's easier. It's just easier to do that as opposed to like going in and it's fun in the ambiance of it once or twice, but after that, hey, they can have it.
You good. Exactly.
Gucci, man.
Yeah, once you've been to one, you probably got it all. But we'll all be watching from home and thoroughly enjoy it. Jason, we cannot thank you enough for coming on and talking with us tonight. You are one of the best out there. We appreciate your friendship and continued, greatness that you have going on with Chiefs Concerns. Yeah, so let everybody know real quick before we get out of here where they can find you, where they can find all your content at, and how they get more JD in their life.
Well, you know, we doing Chiefs Concerns Chief. We on Twitter, we on YouTube, Apple, Spotify. I'm trying to get better at IG. I'm still figuring that whole thing out. I was just,
all of us are. It's fine. IG is a whole. It's an amoeba over there that we all just look at and like, how does that work exactly? Does that thing actually work, or what does it do?
Yeah, right. So I like the Twitter stuff, man. But we trying to get more things out here, and I had to tell you guys, man, I love what y'all do. Also, you know what? I'm always commenting on the stuff y'all put out here.
Yeah.
Y'all guys just like there's certain guys that I look at like. To me, was like my starter guys. You know what I'm saying? Like when I started reaching out to and seeing, and y'all it. Y'all, my people. Shoot, when y'all hollered at me, I'm like, bet, Kyle, and I got y'all, no doubt.
We appreciate it greatly. It's awesome every time you're on, and we had to reach out this time because there's
a big one.
There's not a better person to talk to about this game than you, and maybe the second best person that has an argument we're going to have on Tuesday. And that one I am going to leave as a teaser for the audience.
Oh, okay.
Okay. A little more teaser.
No.
I'll
let the teaser for Tom and Garrett too, maybe. But that's because I don't think they read the group messages enough.
I know maybe a couple of the guys that played for Philly and Kansas City. I do know a few of them. So, So it'd be
we'll
a big
share
thing.
With you after we're off the live air here, but we're not sharing with everybody else until later.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, but we cannot thank you enough for coming on.
Make sure you guys go follow all of Jason's stuff at all of those places. And when you're over at the YouTube channel, like when you're over at this YouTube channel or on our podcast page, like you are at their podcast page, make sure you subscribe and leave a review if you're on the podcast page, especially over at Apple. That's how that one works for us, guys. If you want to help us out and help us get to more Chiefs fans to hear us talking, be able to have Jason's insight and have all those good things, you have to leave reviews and and comment and interact with us. So do all that for Jason while you're over here with us. And Garrett, do you have anything else to get us out of here with?
I just say that I am very excited for this Super Bowl, and this 2 weeks cannot come fast enough. So be sure, everybody, tune in. Obviously, you'll be watching. Thank you all for listening and watching us. Be sure to follow us at Kingdom Says Pod on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Go over to our YouTube, the Kingdom Says Podcast. We've got a lot of great content coming your way the rest of these 2 weeks. And then, obviously, going into the draft, there's going to be a lot of stuff as well.
We're already at the end of the first one almost, boys.
I know. It's coming quick. So thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you in the next one. Peace.